Hi, John Velie, CEO of OnlineVisas. I'm here for another episode of Immigration Solutions during the coronavirus. So we got some interesting news today. Our Congress has been busy. So I'm going to talk about three things in immigration today. I'll get started on that in a second. So we're going to talk about the letter on the Hill. We're going to talk about the executive order and how that could play into this letter on the Hill, how those are related. We're going to talk about the ITServe versus Cissna case and its May 11th deadline. We're going to talk about a really excellent article by Stuart of Forbes. This guy has been great. And then we'll talk about COVID-19, and then we'll get into some really good things that are happening on the planet. All right, so let's dig in. I see my friend Craig Nolan's there. Hey, Craig, the Eggman is out there. It's good to see you. I like to frequent, I guess frequent's not the right word. I like to support, I think is the better word, our local restaurants during this period. And I ordered off Postmates from Tai today. I had some sukiyaki. It was very delicious. I had the spiciest version, and Coy and Clint and the team down there at Tai is doing a bang-up job. And thank you, Postmates, for delivering such delicious food. And it's a good thing. So we're going to talk about the three things in immigration today. So the first thing is the letter on the Hill. So there's this letter that has been going around following the executive order, the proclamation by the president that came out getting close to 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago Friday it'll be. So that's tomorrow. So 2 weeks ago tomorrow. And on that, they excluded a number of visas that some anticipated there would be some stoppage on, right? So we think if you look at the regulations that permit a president to do things, that he was within his scope of doing immigration. He could bar or ban immigration outside the country, and immigration's a term of art, right? It's not anybody from a foreign country. It's really those seeking green cards, right? That's what an immigrant visa is. And then outside the country, right? So what the proclamation did is preclude the filing of certain types of green cards. Basically, most work green cards, excluding the investor green card, excluding the national interest waiver green card. But most work visas, if filed outside the country, had to stop for 60 days. All right. Now, what wasn't in there were non-immigrant visas. These are like the H-1B, the alphabet soup of visas, right? The H-1B, the O-1, the P-1, the L, the J, the F. All these are different visas for students and temporary professional workers and temporary agricultural workers. They call it guest workers, the merit-based immigration. All of this sort of stuff was out there. Hey, Kirk Hill, it's good to see you out there. Hope you're rocking and rolling. I know you're probably hoping some of your venues get to open up soon, and we'd love to see you. But we're talking about immigration. We're talking about the number one thing, this letter on the Hill that had been passed around. Now, who's supporting this? Well, these are typically Trump, supporters that want to see a harsher immigration thing going on. We're seeing a theme that's progressing right now, and that is to blame the outside world for what's happening here. And that's an easy political tool to do. We all know that immigration is a political football, and that politicians will use it. So right now we have 26 million Americans out of work, and the thought of non-Americans coming in to take jobs from Americans is really at the heart of this letter. So the letter all surrounds a 30-day review that will end on May 22nd, when Donald Trump will meet with or get a report from the Department of Labor, the Department of State, and Homeland Security on the impact of non-immigrant visas on American workers. Okay, so who's in the lines? Well, the H-2As and H-2Bs, those are agricultural visas. We need these folks a lot right now. We have literally food rotting in the fields, and we need more workers. But the concept is we have all these high school graduates and folks like that are sheltering in place, and they should go do those jobs, right? And maybe they should. Not saying they shouldn't, but that's one of the ones that they're focusing on, the H-2B and the H-2A visa. they're focusing on the H-1B again, which is really odd because we really need, if we're going to lead the tech sector in the world, which we are, we need to import more people and recruit internationally for enough folks that are good at STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, to fill the jobs to stay at the top of these things. But they're going to look at that, but we know they're attacking that one, and they have. So what's not on the, and then they put the EB-5 on the block, and we know who exactly is after the EB-5. It's Chuck Grassley. You may remember Chuck Grassley. He was the elderly gentleman that was very engaged in the Kavanaugh Senate confirmation hearings. But Chuck Grassley has decided to be the enemy of all legal immigration. And a matter of fact, a lot of Chuck's chiefs of staff and other staffers have been moved from his office into the president's office and really are some of the architects of the policy behind legal immigration becoming tougher. But Chuck has really got something in his craw about the EB-5. And what was really interesting is that, we deal with lobbyists a lot. So the lobbyists that we know at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the United States Indian Business Council, they lobbied, to get the EB-5 excluded, and they lobbied to Kushner and these other guys who have used the EB-5, because right now we don't need to be borrowing more money from foreign investors, from foreign banks and other countries. But the EB-5 is where an investor invests either $900,000 or $1.8 million and has to create 10 jobs for Americans. So they excluded that from stopping that in the proclamation. Well, that really got Chuck Grassley angry, and he wants to put the EB-5 back in there. So, what's going to happen is we have this 60-day window when this proclamation will sunset, and then we have this 30-day window when they're going to look at what the non-immigrant visas do. Okay, so that's out there right now. There's a lot of political pandering. People want it, congressmen want it to be harsher than what the president put in there. They're using this as a political football. Immigrants bad. They're taking American jobs. That's the problem with what's going on right now. That's their angle, right? That's where they're coming from. So what else is there? So that's the first thing, is the letter on the Hill. The second thing is the 30-day period for the executive order till these three agencies come and tell the president the impact of non-immigrant visas, the work visas, on that. And the third one is the ITServe versus Cissna case. Now, ITServe versus Cissna, we've talked about it before, is a really powerful case, and there's three of them after that. Someone calling in. Three big cases came down in March that really have stated that USCIS's policies that have been implemented since 2018, a matter of fact, policies going back to 2010, have been invalidated by this court, this DC District Court. Now, what does that mean, right? So the DC District Court can make a decision for the cases at hand, but can it really make the cases for everywhere? Well, we think that we can argue that. It doesn't really make the law that USCIS will follow until it gets to a court of appeals. Now, and then here's what's important. On May 11th, USCIS gets to make the decision on whether or not it wants to appeal ITServe versus Cissna. If it doesn't, what is it going to do? So I know the attorneys that litigated this case, and they think USCIS is close to maybe conceding this point. But a lot of us in the industry, we're not so sure. And I don't know that they're 100% sure themselves, but we often see USCIS and the Trump administration double down. And there's a really interesting article. Now, this guy, I follow this guy. His name is Stuart Anderson, and he is an excellent reporter on a number of things: globalization, business, technology, and immigration. He's really covered a lot of things on immigration. So he thinks, or he's writing about in this 30-day review, that instead of USCIS conceding that the policies that they put out, which were found by numerous federal judges to be arbitrary and capricious and against the Agency and Procedures Act and against the plain language of the law, right? What happens is you have a regulation, and then the agency would then issue policy memorandums on how to apply that regulation, right? And what this court said is the way that USCIS was applying these regulations was arbitrary and capricious and against the law, right? And that's the standard. And that's a really high standard. So to win that was a really significant win. And they're saying that these policy memorandums, going back to 2010 and the newest one in 2018, violated the plain language of the law. And they did it in a number of ways. And so, but Stuart Anderson in Forbes, that's where he writes for Forbes, says that that when this 30-day review comes on, that a new restriction could take the form of suspending the entry of anyone on an H-1B visa coming from outside the country. That's possible, right? And or imposing new conditions on their entry that would be difficult to satisfy, right? So the Trump administration, although losing these court cases, may not concede the fact that their memorandum are in violation of the law, but might just issue even more restrictive memorandums, right? That's what he's saying there. And it's really interesting because it says that he's looked at this. Denial rates rose from 6% in fiscal year 2015 to 30% in the first quarter of 2020. That's a massive, massive jump of denials. And it's hitting some American companies. Amazon's denial rate, 16%, Google, 14%, Facebook, 8%, Apple, 8%. Those companies never used to get denied. Now, there's this really interesting chart here, and I'm going to bring up some companies and read that. Cognizant, 60% of its H-1Bs were denied in the fiscal year 2020. Another one, Infosys, 59%. Tech Mahindra, 36%. Capgemini, 30%. Wipro, 38%. Massive, massive amounts of denials for these companies. What are these companies? These companies are Indian staffing companies that do it at a really large basis. And they are the first line, right? They are the companies that get contracts with Amazon and Google. So Amazon and Google, although they had 16% is what it says Amazon is, Google's 14%, Microsoft 14%, Deloitte 40%, right? These big companies often have contracts with Cognizant, Mahindra, Capgemini, Infosys, right? And then there's another line of companies that are the staffing companies, right? That will, and this is what ITServe has. So ITServe are companies that will have contracts with Capgemini or Cognizant, who would then have a contract with Amazon, right? And so their percentage are even higher. So you see the first line are higher than they've ever been. 16%, 14%. Second line, 60%. And then the staffing companies even higher. And the way that immigration was doing it is saying, prove to us by showing contracts all the way through and have the end users write these letters and tell us exactly what your people are going to do for the entirety of the 3 years. And immigration just said, no, you don't have to do that. That's what these cases ITServe said. You do not have to show all of that stuff. Imagine if you're an employer, like me, I have a law firm, right? I hire a new lawyer. What immigration is saying is I need to be able to tell to immigration every client that my new lawyer is going to work on for the next 3 years. I need to be able to say it. If I can't say that, then I can't get a visa for this guy. That's what they're doing to our staffing industry. And it's well beyond what the regulations state need to happen, right? So this is what we're seeing. So really interesting by Mr. Anderson on what he's writing in his article. He goes through some other things I think are worthy of that. It's like, so he's saying, following the 30-day review, the administration could recommend moving forward with an H-1B regulation already on the agenda but not issued, that would revise the definition of specialty occupation, revise the definition of employer and employee relationship, and propose additional requirements designed to ensure employees pay appropriate wages for H-1B holders. Now, all of those things exist right now. Hey, Dave Clancy, good to see you out there. These are the things that H-1B is on. But besides being nailed numerous times in the court, they're going to make it even more restrictive, and it's not lawful for them to do it. What's lawful is a new regulation. What they're going to say is, even though our application of these regulations were wrong last time, we're going to make them more wrong, and that's what they're going at to. So it's a really interesting thing he said there. Now, the reason is, it's political red meat is why they're doing it. It's the fear factor that these folks are taking jobs, but the stats just don't state that, right? So here's another quote that he says, and this comes from a study by some economists, Giovanna Perry, Kevin Shee, Chad Sparger, Angie Merrick Zeitling. They looked at the last recession and discovered in denying the entry of H-1B visas due to the annual limits, right? Because they have this small limit. You only get 65,000 of them anyway, right? So they put these limits on there. That limit used to be higher. It used to be in the hundreds of thousands, 114, I believe. Anyway, they dropped it down almost in half. And what they said, the number of the number of jobs for U.S.-born workers in computer-related industries would have grown at least 55% faster between 2005 and 6 and 2009 and 10, if not for the denial of so many applications in the recent H-1B lotteries, concluded the economist, right? So the last time we went through a recession, they said they did the same thing. Let's blame the foreigners. Let's blame the people that are coming in to work in our tech companies, and our tech companies are creating more jobs for American. Let's blame them. Let's not let them in. Let's not let our company hire the best people to be the best in the world. And that decreased 55%. Less jobs were created because of that arbitrary government intrusion into the marketplace of companies hiring who they need to hire, right? And they say, and it goes on to say that the Trump administration appears poised to enact new restrictions on foreign-born engineers and the ability of international students to work in the United States after graduation, right? Even though the president has stated favors merit-based immigration, and these are mostly highly skilled people admitted into America, right? So it not only will it hurt our American companies, not only will it drive these American companies to continue to build more and more operations in India and other countries, right? Our jobs are leaving right now. The whole thing they complained about in the last election was jobs are leaving. Factory jobs are leaving. We're not going to get factory jobs back because we don't pay people $1 a day. Our people don't want to be paid $1 a day, and they shouldn't be paid $1 a day. But we have very, very high-paying jobs in the industry of high tech, right? Very high-paying jobs, and we are sending those high-paying jobs overseas because our government has decided to limit the amount of people that can come in, and it's limiting our growth of our economy, and has, right? By the statistics, by the economists. All right, so here we go. That's the deal there. So that's really what Stuart Anderson says. Very, very astute article. Forbes, smart guy, that sort of thing. That's what he's talking about. All right, let me see who's out there. Ibrahim Musayai. Good to see you out there, Ibrahim. All right, so I'm going to shift a little bit into the stats. We like to do that. So 3.6 million people have the coronavirus right now around the world. 25,000. I'm sorry, it's not 25,000. It's a much higher number than that. What do we got there? I think it's 250,000 have died. 1.192, we're getting almost to 1.2 million cases in the United States, and 65,000 have died. That's just going up every day. Interestingly, the news says that our president's personal valet has just contracted the coronavirus. And you know, how you may feel, look, this is nothing to root for. This is a scary thing. It'll be interesting to see what happens if people close to our decision makers catch this disease. I mean, that's the deal. We've had Rand Paul's already been sick and came back and said he's fine. But, you know, what is the president going to think if people really close to him have this disease and he's been infected by it? Will he quarantine himself? We saw Boris Johnson, the prime minister of the United Kingdom. He had to go to the hospital. He got very sick over this sort of thing. It'll be interesting to see what would happen. Don't root for it at all. Hope it doesn't happen if our president does catch the coronavirus. But it'll change the dialogue, I promise you, if that does happen. And we'll go from there. So that's kind of, not fun to talk about that, but it's real, and that's what we're here to talk about. We're talking about immigration solutions during the coronavirus. But I always like to change and shift into something that's interesting. So here's an article in sciencealert.com. Everything in the world, everything is weird right now, but here are some really good things happening on the planet. All right? So I really like to talk about this. Young gorillas have learned to dismantle poacher traps. Good thing. We're getting close to achieving sustainable nuclear fusion is number 2. we can now listen in to the universe. So I guess we have detectors known as LISA coming online by 2034 that will be able to talk about that. We're getting really close to eradicating the second disease from the planet. We got rid of smallpox, and we're on the verge of wiping out the guinea worm parasite. Didn't know we had a guinea worm parasite, but I'm really glad that we're about to get rid of it. And when we're here with the coronavirus, that's a big thing. Australia is on track to become the first country to wipe out one type of cancer. According to a new story, Australia will become the first country to eliminate cervical cancer by 2028, with a predicted rate of just 4 new cases per over 100,000 people. Good on you, Aussies. Good stuff. We're closer than ever to having a drug that can treat autism symptoms. That's good stuff. This is a good one. Scientists are working on a graphene-based sieve that turns seawater into drinking water. Now, isn't that great, right? We have, 3/4 of the planet is water, and it's seawater, and it's salt water, and you can't use it, and crops need water, and people need water, and water is a very necessary thing, but here's this graphene-based sieve that will turn seawater into drinking water. It's really awesome, and major turning point by researchers in desalinization. So good stuff on that. We've just discovered a vitamin that could reduce the incidence of birth defects and miscarriages worldwide. Good news there, isn't it? All right. African wild dogs communicate with each other by sneezing. Bet you didn't know that. NASA's released all of its research to the public for free. I just talked last week about UFOs. I'm wondering what's out there in the NASA's free research about UFOs. Remember, this came out right during the coronavirus. Hi, Mike Ablett. It's good to see you. During the coronavirus, it came out that the Navy, or the Pentagon, I should say, had released photographs that the Navy had taken of unidentified flying objects, right? And it talked about a Navy pilot had described this, flying, machine, spaceship that was moving around, kind of like a pinball machine. Well, the only thing that can fly unidentified flying objects are aliens. So, without saying it, they said there are aliens, right? So now NASA is going to release all of its research to the public by free. This is how we find out we're not alone in the universe, and it's just being eked out. I'm not a conspiracy guy. I'm just reading this stuff. But last year, NASA announced that any published research funded by the space agency will now be available at no cost, launching a new public web portal. So I'm calling on my conspiracy buddies. Get out there. Area 51, find out. We need to have real knowledge on these aliens and their spaceships. And again, I think this is not a coincidence that we have Space Force. This is what Space Force was being designed for, so we can fight these aliens, because it's coming. And, we didn't see the coronavirus coming, but right now it's all there. So mark my words, mark them. We are little by little being told there's aliens. NASA's releasing its stuff. The Pentagon's talking about it. All this stuff that they've been keeping under wraps. Aliens are out there. Space Force is being invented. And lo and behold, they're just going to give it to us right now. And I guess that's not good news, other than the NASA's going to allow it for free. But you know what is good news? These baby gorillas have learned to dismantle poacher traps. So John Velie, CEO of OnlineVisas, hope you got some nuggets of information out of that. Hope it helps you. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're healthy, and everybody in your life. If they're not, we're thinking about you. These are still serious times. We're still increasing the number of coronavirus cases and deaths every day. It isn't going down. It hadn't gone down. It hadn't leveled off. It just keeps going up. And yet we're opening. So be safe when you open. We're talking about it here. Take care. And we'll see you next time. Oh, tune in tomorrow, because it's Friday. And you know what Friday is. It is How to Practice Law in Hawaiian Shirt, beer in hand. And tomorrow we're going to have an interview with some very, very important people. and one will be Buddha. So tune in tomorrow for our interview with Buddha and Peace Frog in the Peace Garden in a Hawaiian shirt, drinking beer. Take care.